Flame on! How's everybody doing tonight? I'm here with my special guest, Nick Lenz. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good. And sorry, everybody, it's been a while since the Comic Blade. We've both been pretty busy.
That we have. That we have.
Oh, we have a comment.
Oh, already.
It's Nemo Strange.
What's up, Nemo? How's it going? Yes, this is going to be open stream. I will. Are you fine with that, Nick?
I'm fine with that.
All right. I'll go ahead and post the link in the chat, and whenever y'all are able, just hop in.
Yep. So, we're here discussing a comic book that came out back in 1986 after the events of the financially and critically successful comic book event known as Crisis on Infinite Earths by Mark Waid and George Perez. That this book is not written by them. This book is written and drawn by the legendary John Byrne. Book known as Man of Steel. Not the Bendis book from 2018. The difference between two of them. Yeah.
Nor to be confused what happened with Superman. What happened to the Man of Tomorrow? That was a separate creative team.
Yes. Now, this book in particular, if anybody's ever read it, you're like, oh, this is where the Superman animated series got a lot of their ideas from, because reading this book, basically, you can see where they got, we'll take this idea, we'll take this, because a lot of concepts for a lot of stuff from this miniseries are still canon to this very day. I mean, there'll be some slight alterations here and there, but this miniseries has been remarkably intact. Like, there's been very little alteration for this miniseries over the years. Because the first issue is set on the planet Krypton. Now, if anybody's ever read the original X-Men 1, Krypton was never identified in that issue. All was known, if you read the issue, it just Superman comes to this distant alien planet that blew up, came to Earth, met with the Kents. Actually, met with the Kents orphanage, raised by the Kents. They made changes. Krypton was introduced until More Fun Comics 101, which were introduced to Jor-El. It's like, basically, Byrne takes those two concepts and combine them to one here, where, like, the Science Council doesn't believe the fact the planet's going to explode, they think the planet's going to be fine, despite the fact there's massive quakes, and, well, he sets on the rocket ship and lands on Earth in Kansas, and he's raised by the Kents. We do see also in the first couple issues, we do see him meeting Lana Lang in high school. Of course, yes, this is sort of expanded upon in Birthright by, I think it was Mark Waid. I think it was Waid and Jeff Johns. Their own expansion on the high school era for Superman, but it's like we touch on it, but we're not going to do anything with it, because also the whole thing of, like, when Superman was a teenager in the Silver Age, he had a costume like he was Superman. He was there, so he was Superboy. Because of legal reasons, they had to remove that. So that part was not canon. They reference it basically about a little bit later when it comes to that particular run.
What's up, Movie Theater King? And by the way, this is open stream, everyone. So feel free to hop in if you are able.
Hey guys, how are you?
I'm doing good.
Long time, Movie Theater King. Long time.
Yeah, I'm in college taking a lot of classes.
So, what did you feel like with this? What little you've read of this run?
What run are we talking about again?
John Byrne's post Infinite Crisis on Infinite Earths, 1986.
His Superman work.
Oh, I'm sorry. I haven't really read that issue. I've been mostly focused on just niche areas of DC and just certain other areas of DC.
Yeah. Basically, the comic is what we now known as modern Superman, thanks to this comic book. So after he finishes high school, goes to Metropolis, gets his job. Now, the only Superman character who does not make the first post-crisis appearance in this very book is Lois Lane. For some weird reason, she made her first post-crisis appearance in Booster Gold. I thought that was kind of weird, reading that. So I wasn't reading comics at the time, so it's just like, really? And then you have her like, oh, they're working for the planet now, and there's a funny scene where, oh, Clark needs to shave for this event, so he turns on his razor and then takes Space Memphis' spaceship and uses it to shave his beard. And like, oh, now he's ready to go. And he goes visit a yacht basically owned by Lex Luthor, who's got hair and he's chubby. It's why John Byrne drew him, so don't blame. That's kind of what he looked like. And he's a businessman. There was also terrorists attacking his yacht. And then, of course, basically Lois, who got a dress from Lex because apparently they used to date. Apparently, he didn't like what he said, so she's like, Smallville, give me your coat and turn around. She then proceeds to take off the dress and give it back to Lex, and she walks in with Clark's coat. And, of course, he's later arrested for actually hiring the terrorists to attack his boat. Yes. And also, we do have one original character who does make a debut in this miniseries. You want to know who that is?
Who?
Magpie.
Yep.
Yes.
Although she's known as an obscure, low-grade Batman villain, she debuted in Superman.
It was issue, I think it was 4, was also the first post-crisis meeting of Batman and Superman, which, of course, basically it's like, oh, there's a bomb, and apparently the bomb is on him. It's like this weird thing. And it's only that one issue. Then later on, Superman finds out he's an alien, which, of course, he gets a ghost from Jor-El. And then later on, the ghost is sort of hit in the head by Lana Lang for some random reason. And then the book kind of leads into basically what leads into the Superman stuff that he would work on for the next couple of years. There's no denying this book is classic. It's 39 years old. A lot of the stuff for this miniseries is still intact. Lex being a businessman, the combination of 2 different origin stories into one, the costume is most the same. Someone did point out, though, oh, hi, Sladia.
Hey.
That post-crisis Superman got a bit lesser power post-crisis.
Depowered, basically.
Yeah, depowered. Still has his powers, but not OP like he was during the Silver Age.
And
He's not lifting planets or shooting rainbows out of his fingers.
yeah, to catch it, for those just now joining us, we're reviewing one of the first runs right out of Crisis on Infinite Earths, post John Byrne, which surprisingly enough actually did have a bit of an inspiration with Superman 2025. Well, with a little bit of All-Star sprinkled in.
I think the first thing that was adapted for this was Superman animated series.
Yes, a
Yes.
lot of Superman the animated series is based off this run.
Mm-hmm.
Oh no!
like-
Yes, there was. That's the Amalgam crossover movie theater king. You mentioned that in the private, but that didn't come into play till about 95, 96.
Yes, and that was during a very bad time in comics, where the speculator boom bubble burst, and this is a way to recoup losses. DC came out of this perfectly fine. Marvel had to struggle for a bit.
Yeah,
I think for this story, it was really interesting, right? How they kicked Superman back up, right? To start off the post-crisis era of DC, right?
Mhm.
Right.
And John Burns being the one to take the charge of Superman, I was like, after a long time, because I haven't read it in a long time, I think it's cool that he did it, but he made the character more interesting to storytelling wise, right?
Mhm.
It's really interesting of the way he dealt with the storytelling.
He has
That's
an interesting way of drawing Superman's face, where it's very,
Yeah,
very flat-ish. That's why I look under his artwork. Other people had different interpretations of Superman, but he always had basically where his face was like very stretched.
yes,
I never understood exactly why he was like that, and no one else drew him like that. Dan Jurgensen, he never drew him like that at all. And I heard there was a thing where Superman had this thing where, like, every artist, when they went the Diamond Era, that Superman had been drawn exactly the same. This movie is different artwork. The style of him had been drawn the same every comic book, so we have a good continuity flow. They tried to do that for Batman, but that didn't work because everybody drew him differently. So,
And it's
that-
bad. Of course, everyone's going to have different aesthetic tastes.
yes. And this book would lead into from when I looked at the comics and did a long review of my comic book corner, it led to 12 years of really good comic book for Superman, from 86 to about 98. Because 99 was a weird year for comics for Superman, where it's like he's Superman 24/7, and then apparently it's Brainiac was controlling him all along. I'm like, what? It was a weird year, and then it became a little better when Jeff Loeb took over the character in 2000.
You got to remember, back in the 90s, like it was straight after, like him coming back from the dead and the resurrection and him Superman Blue and Red and all of that. You got to remember that. So
And he
It
was also
was-
on a tryout by Aliens.
yeah, so it was a really weird time for some of the. Yes, you got cool suits. Don't get me wrong, but also at the same time, it was really weird some aspects, but some also really cool stuff that happened. For
Mhm.
example, I'll give you a really good example: the crossover between Aliens and Superman. That is a really good story to read upon, right?
I think didn't Dixon do that one or Dan Jurgens, the first one?
I can't remember.
want-
who did-
I don't think that was Jurgens. I think he did the second one.
Yeah, I think Dixon did the first because I think he did one or two miniseries. I've heard on his podcast he's always wanted to do like a Superman, but apparently no one in the Superman office was interested in having him write any of the Superman titles. So he did like two miniseries and that was it. He had no problem writing the character, especially as he popped up in Nightwing.
Yeah,
So the thing is, I don't think anybody had issue. I think he did one issue of Superman where he had Superman team with Nightwing for an issue, and that was like his sole issue he worked on for that comic. Though some people might think, okay, what about the classic villains per se? When do they show up? Well, Parasite showed up in an issue of Firestorm, and he was brought in by the creator of the Suicide Squad, John Ostrander. In a very weird way where Rudy Jones, Rudy Jones, you mean the guy who appeared on Superman animated series? Yeah, that's the comic he debuted in Fury of Firestorm 56. Where Darkseid remembered the original Parasite, so he basically kind of caused the same accent that created the original Parasite from the Silver Age. I'm like, really? Firestorm. And weird thing was, he was not originally purple. If you read the issue, he was green.
So, Movie Theater King's asking, so the John Byrne era Superman was the defining Superman for generations of readers until Infinite Crisis or until the editorial transition him into a modern Superman. I am not too much of a reader of Superman, but from what little he's read, he seems a little, although to his core remained the same.
Yes.
That's what you're saying.
Mhm.
But for me personally, like as a Superman fan, I love reading the Superman character. Like I love reading it, like even just like the 90s, the 2000s. Those were like my era of books that I used to read. I didn't get much into the New 52 stuff. That's a story for another day.
Mhm.
Agreed.
I talked to Dan Deal about the Superman work with George Perez of why he left the book after 6 issues because of the creative differences. According to Dan Deal, that is 100% completely true. That did happen. That was true.
But I
It
feel
Due to if the Kents were alive or not. That was what his disagreement was. And the whole thing of like inconsistent reasons of the changes. So basically everything George Perez has said about why he left, all true. Because I asked that to him about because I asked him when I saw my tab at Comic-Con last month.
okay. But as I was going to say, it's like for my, like me reading this, like John Burns' comics, like Man of Steel and stuff like that. It basically it retold the origins of Superman. I was just like, yes, I'm all in for it, right?
Mhm.
And for that era, it's like, yes, that should be the origin, and they should have stuck to that origin up until New 52, right? They should have
Yes.
kept with that, and then when they did Rebirth, they didn't go back to that era. What John Burns did, and I'm just like thinking, why did you go
I
back to
think
it?
so. Back in 2016, when they did, when they had Dan Jerkins come back to Action Comics,
Yeah,
which he was on the book for, I think it was about 50 issues. He was on the book for 56 issues because the book
yeah,
was coming out twice a month. Book was really good under him.
That is true.
agreed. That is true. You're not wrong.
Agreed.
I just feel, I just wish they kept the one continuity of the origin story after for Rebirth, right? And not gone like, oh, so we're doing a different origin. Oh, so the John Burns run is now not the one.
Yeah, I think in the case of the Krypton stuff, that's mostly kept canon.
Yeah,
Yep.
That I think it's seen very little change. I mean, there's been small snippets of change, but it's mostly been the same. Like Lex being a businessman, that's still not changed. DC has now retconned he was never a businessman in the main continuity. They never changed that. John Burns once put that into place. And if you read the comic, the suit he wears in the comic, he also wore that same suit in the animated series.
like you said, that's heavily inspired from Superman the animated series for sure. And I think what the comic run was is that they took inspiration from the Superman the animated series, but what if they took also the Fletcher cartoon stuff?
That is true.
That is a good question, because if they took inspiration from the Fletcher cartoon stuff, then great, right?
Right.
But like I said, I just think it's a good comic run, right?
Right.
I just wish there was more coming from John Burns. I wish there was like maybe 30 issues, for
There is. He did because he was a regular writer for Superman right after this miniseries came out.
no,
Right.
but what I mean is
Go ahead.
on the main line, like the main, like
In
so
the
he did
DC, he did.
he did because I dropped off when I was younger. I dropped off about
Yeah, it's
10
been collected in trades several times. There's like originally 9 trade paperbacks collect this run, then they returned to 6, and recently they just released an omnibus collecting this era. He did about 23 issues of Superman. He did action from 584 to 600. He didn't do Adventures. He never did that book. That was Marv Wolfman. Action was mostly put a team-up book for the first 15 issues, where it's like Hawkman or the Teen Titans, or that weird, bizarre two-parter with Big Barda and Mr. Miracle, which I'm sure Jay Heath does not want to bring up what happened in that two-parter, especially since Carr brought up his review. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. One of these.
Yeah,
days
I'm not trying to go into detail because I know you get a little like, really? Keep it down? But one thing cool about this run, John Byrne did create another original character, which we do know about this character, because she's appeared in the Superman animated series, appeared in live action, the beautiful Silver Banshee.
Yes,
true.
Silver Banshee was like, I like Silver Banshee as a character, right? She's like one of the most like underrated villains for Superman.
That is true.
Uh,
That is very true.
I think what James Gunn should do is bring that character to live action.
She has technically been to live action, I think, twice.
With
I know,
Supergirl.
yeah,
With
Supergirl.
Supergirl.
Did she appear on Smallville?
Did she?
Supergirl,
Or was that Livewire?
And I know Supergirl. I think
Yeah,
maybe.
I'm talking about Smallville.
Yeah. Supergirl, they decided to have it where she was a staffer at Catco for some reason.
yeah,
And then I think it was thanks to Livewire. They had to make her look like the costume, but her face was, I mean, I at least got to admit, basically, because the character is supposed to be Irish. And I think the actress did give off a little bit of an Irish accent. I think she did, didn't she?
She did. She did. I would
did.
say.
She did.
Yeah, and I do appreciate when they brought in Live Wire, who, those that were thinking, like, was Live Wire original comic book character? No, she was not.
No.
She is one of two I could think of who were original characters in the animated series who Live Wire did come to comics, Volcan did not.
Yes, there are three. There are three series exclusive characters that had major impact over the course of the DCAU: Volcana, Livewire, and Harley Quinn. But like you said, Volcana was never canonized in DC continuity proper.
Yeah, there was also Roxy Rocket as well. But I think
she was never as popular. Come on.
Never top. I think she appeared in one issue of the original Harley Quinn book from the early 2000s. But I think that's been it for her because, there was one character they create that was exclusive to continuity. Claw, the one who's voiced by Captain Janeway herself.
Okay.
Which, get this, she actually has been brought to comics.
Really?
In Catwoman.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah.
When they had Tina Howard write the character.
I saw that run, not gonna lie.
Yeah.
So,
She popped up for issues. And if you're curious, did she look like the winner on the TV show? With the white streak and the outfit?
mhm.
Yes. Yes, she did.
She
But
did.
bringing it back to Silver Banshee, right?
Right, of course.
I personally like her as a character, and for her to be introduced in this series, in this book, I thought
It was Action Comics 595 she was introduced.
yeah.
One at
I
a
think
time.
I think it was a really really good move, smart move, right, from DC for them to do it, and then furthermore, it kind of solidified DC can come up with original characters. That's never been done in other companies like Marvel or Dark Horse or whatever, right? Like that is a villain, if you know what I mean. So that was
A
really
villain who's pretty.
a villain who's pretty, yeah, and I dig it. Like I really dig it. And I know, I said this before. I know James Gunn wants to bring those types of characters to the obscure characters to the big screen. So I think she'd be a really good addition to the big screen. Maybe for Supergirl, maybe in the future, or the Superman saga they bring her onto the big screen. I think she'd be really cool to do that. But I think what John Burns and the writer who did that, I think that was really really cool. And I just wish there was more of her nowadays. I wish there was more of her.
Yeah, she is. She has been a supporting character in Josh Williamson's Superman book,
Yeah.
where she's dating Jimmy Olsen.
Yes.
That is true.
Yes. And I think everyone is like, really? As a reader, I'm like, you lucky dog. Because it's a pretty woman. I'm like, anytime I see these guys with these pretty ladies, I'm like, you lucky bastard.
It's true. It's true. It's true. He is a lucky guy. He's a lucky guy. I mean, I don't know how he does it, but he does it anyway.
Yeah. And the thing is, the guy has had trouble with women over the years. Like, he can never keep a good relationship last for a while, but this is surprisingly been going on now for like 2 years?
Just about.
Just about, yeah.
Yeah, and it's never been progressing very much, but it's still there. Guy Williamson is doing he's trying to progress his stuff on Superman. Which, those of you curious, is he playing to leave Superman like what happened with Flash? With Jerry Rams? Nope.
No.
There was no plan to have him leave because, one, people love his work on Superman. And I think the book sells real with DC, so DC's like, he's good.
Go ahead.
Yep. I just kind of wish they would have left Jeremy Adams on Flash.
Nemo says, dude, I am a post-2000s guy, and I only got into comics around 2020. I feel like a lot of people got into comics around the late 2010s, early 2020s.
I got into comics in 04.
I got in around '06, '07, around when Damian Wayne first debuted in Batman and Son. And I'm
I
like,
didn't see until like 2010, but I read a little bit, and then I dropped off because I was focused on Marvel. And then I came back to DC in 2010 because at the time I came back, and I know that our friend Tivia, he loves Wally. I'm not sure when he started reading DC, but when I started reading DC, Wally was not the Flash at that point; it was Barry.
true.
Mhm.
But yeah, Simon Spurrier, he's a decent horror writer, but he cannot write a superhero title to save his life. I'm sorry. He has improved compared to when he started, but I do not see him garnering a profit over the course of his run. I'm not going to say that it's going to get shelved. I'm not going to say it's going to get buried. They might do a trade paperback or two towards the end of the year, but yeah, Simon Spurrier's Flash run was just bad.
Did you know he's actually written John Constantine before?
Hmm?
He wrote John Constantine.
Yeah, like I said, he can write decent horror stories like Vertigo, Constantine, Zatanna. Spurrier is just what comes to the Flash. Spurrier is kind of out of his element a little bit, which I commend him for willing to expand, but I just don't think a lot of his concepts carried over with the audience. That's just
Yes, and now we have Wade taking over issue 25. Which some people are like, really? He has not been in the book since like
90,
04?
04,
He was on,
05.
he was he preceded Jeff Johns on the title as a regular writer.
He did.
He was in the book for a long time. I looked up on he was in the book for 10 years. Probably Flash's longest writer. I know that in the first issue of his John Byrne's Superman, that he brought in Metallo,
Yes.
and he had him design like the Terminator.
Obvious because of the recent success of the Terminator movie. So obvious.
Yes, it's similar what happened with Chris Claremont, where he brought in the Brood, a based on the Xenomorphs from Alien.
Hmm.
Yes, and weirdly enough, Metallo in the comics has maintained that look in his robot form. Well, I can tell generally, like a lot of the time over the years, like I don't think they ever updated his look until like maybe New 52. Because they kept that look.
They hardly ever had a reason to change it. I mean, it's intent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there was a funny issue 3, where Lex with his computer asked the question, "Who is Superman?" And the computer says, "Clark Kent." And he's like, "Wrong. Shut down his computer. It doesn't work." And he also had this thing of like, "Oh, a green kryptonite ring that he wore a lot." Then he had to chop his own hand off because again, cancer. And then he died. Then he got reborn in a clone body of himself and claimed to be his own son.
Yeah, the 90s.
Australia.
Yeah, the 90s comics were wild.
Yeah, but that wasn't Byrne. That was somebody else who did that.
But one of the biggest, Byrne, especially when you go into his Man of Steel, not just his Superman, but I would say the biggest change, and this especially is misconstrued with the release of the movie, is the Kryptonian origin and what ultimately leads to Clark getting sent out. Now, in the dialogue, again, I don't have the panels on me because I had barely any time to prep today. But in the paneling, they mostly look down on humanity, or they're indifferent to Earth, to where they're less intelligent or inferior to them. Not inferior, not to the point although it could be misconstrued as conquerors, no, they just deem humans as a less intelligent life form despite being humanoid. That's literally all the dialogue is conveying. I'm sorry, the reason I bring that up is because I keep hearing that on social media. Oh, they're trying to rip off the Viltrumites or Dragon Ball by making Kryptonians conquerors. It doesn't matter. Okay, ultimately, it doesn't matter what ultimately led to the destruction of Krypton. At the end of the day, Jor-El and his wife were two people who sent their baby off world in a desperate attempt to save him. That's all you need. Maybe add Kara too if you're actually gonna integrate her. With the in-laws, with his cousins, with her family having a similar idea. But other than that, it does not matter what happens to the Kryptonians as long as Krypton explodes. It literally doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
With that being said, am I going to fault the movie for going that route? No, because in the context of the movie, they did say in the synopsis that Clark would be shaken to its core. And having a misskewed viewpoint of what his birth family wanted for him and embracing his humanity more can make the character more humanoid rather than going too far in the opposite direction, as admittedly the DCEU did, but just despite Henry Cavill being solid casting, borderline perfect casting, he was either given a lackluster script or was just told to aura farm for the sake of spectacle. Like, I'm sorry, but it needs to be said. Some of y'all ain't ready for that conversation.
I think in the case of the criticism for Henry Cavill's performance, the way he did Superman, I think some people could probably lay at the feet of maybe Zack Snyder and whoever wrote Man of Steel.
Yes, because was Nolan a production credit for Man of Steel? Because I know he left the project at some point.
Nolan was attached to Man of Steel as a producer, but he wasn't heavily. He was not heavily involved.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay. Thank you for clearing that up for me, Tilapia.
Yeah.
And was it his looks? Not so much that. It's just that Henry Cavill actually had the range. If you actually it's kind of like Andrew Garfield in a way. If you actually gave him a decent script, you had a solid casting.
And a little fun fact relating to Henry Cavill, he is the first non-American to play Superman.
Yes, he is of British descent, to understand.
Yes. And I've heard also that some people are like, why can't it be like James Bond? I think because it's too recognizable.
Easily. Way too recognizable.
Yeah, because I think he's actually tried. But I mean the lowest attempt he actually has had to play James Bond was Man from U.N.C.L.E.
Yes. Yes. And as for range, okay, what's a better example? Mark Hamill. He actually plays Avatar Fire Lord Ozai in Atla. Say what you will about the American anime trend of the early 2000s, but despite Atla being a very basic save the world story, it is a masterclass in execution. And no one carries the story better than Mark Hamill as Ozai. That is the purest example, and compare that to his performance as the Joker on the DC side of things with Cartoon Network. That is the most direct example of range I could give you. And yet somehow in the sequel trilogy, Disney squanders it in the most epic way possible. But, I'm getting ahead of myself.
Disney decided not to do much with him in the sequel trilogy by having him pass away in the most weirdest way possible. Like, he's not killed. He had just ups and dies. Like, out of nowhere. Like, there's no mention of some disease he had. He wasn't shot. He wasn't stabbed. He just... I mean, he didn't look like as old as, like, Yoda. So it was just really weird. Yoda, at least, basically, there was kind of an explanation for him because...
He was going to fade anyway.
But Luke? Nothing.
At most, he was, like, 55.
Yeah. And... there was something said that he couldn't have a family because he probably could have changed the rules of the order because he was in charge of it.
It's pretty hard to make an actor look and feel beat for beat like the comics. True. Mm-hmm. And yet, no, okay. Biggest misconception. I am not refuting David Cornsweet at all. He is great with what he's given. I'm just categorizing that Henry Cavill was if you're actually going to have a balance between Clark Kent and Superman, Henry Cavill actually had the range to give a balance, but again, an actor is limited by the script they are given. Mm-hmm. Cornsweet kind of leans more on the adorable Clark side of things, whereas his Superman, again, like I said, between Superman and the Justice Gang, James Gunn's Superman was more of an ensemble, so we haven't really seen this version of the character really stand on his own yet, so I'm not going to go too much into that, but based on what I've seen so far, David Cornsweet has room to grow. That's all I'm going to say on that. Talati?
His Clark reminded me of Kristen Reeve.
Kristen Reeve is the golden standard. Okay. I hate
the way his style, it's very similar to that.
It's a modern retread of Christopher Reeve's performance. I will commend you that. I will grant you that, Nick. I will grant you that. It does feel like it feels like in this. I'm not gonna. Okay, Taladia, would you say it's more of a retread? And movie theater, can get your opinion on this in a minute. Taladia, would you say it's more of a retread or makes you feel nostalgic for Christopher Reeves?
I think that Christopher Reeves is the definitive Superman. Don't
Yes.
get me wrong.
Yes.
But for the modern era now, right? People are gonna hate me for saying this. David Cornsweet is gonna be the standard going forward because he's the height.
Mm-hmm.
He went to the same scholarship as Christopher Reeve.
Mm-hmm. Very similar
And
style.
very similar style, and it's not the same as before. Yes, he's got the trunks, which I don't like, right? But I have to accept
it.
Yeah,
I heard
but
that was actually his idea for the trunks.
yeah, it was his idea. But the thing is like he is telling a Superman story, which is not over like Superman 1, Superman 2. We're not getting that. So we're getting like a multitude of Superman movies, or the Superman saga, as James Gunn is saying, and they're telling a narrative story from start to finish, right?
Yes.
So, for example, we're getting Man of Tomorrow in 2027, and we're getting that with Nicholas Hoult, David Cornsweet, and Rachel Brosnahan, etc., right, to return the roles.
Mhm.
But here's the thing: James Gunn is the brilliant mind of James Gunn is that he knows what the fans would like to see.
Mhm.
He knows it, right? For
Mhm.
example, Crypto in the first film, Crypto sold a lot of merchandise. That alone,
Got kids and see. I mean, that's an extra tier of momentum going into the movie right there.
that got a lot of momentum going in. Yeah,
We got Crypto alone.
got Crypto alone. Yeah, but when it comes down to Superman, yes, Superman is a popular character, but you needed Crypto. If you didn't have Crypto in the movie, it was gonna sell. It was not gonna. It was not gonna. It was not gonna make the numbers that Man of Steel made. If it wasn't for Crypto, it wouldn't have made that number, right?
Mhm.
I believe that, and I still believe to this day that if it wasn't for James Gunn's brilliant idea of bringing in Crypto, bringing in Lex. I mean, he did brainstorm the idea of Brainiac, so maybe Brainiac is the next villain for the next film.
Which
But
would be a solid choice. I cannot stress this enough. Yes. Okay. And I'll even say that we've seen Zod too many times. Zod
Yeah.
and Luthor are the go-to villains to be adapted. And
Yeah.
that's
Yes.
largely because Luthor was the villain for Superman 78, and then you cut right into Zod with Superman 2.
Yeah.
And I'll even say this with the Snyder and all that with the DCEU. Man of Steel 2013 is just a darker, quote unquote, edgier amalgamation of Superman 1 and 2.
Yeah,
That's literally all it is.
It's Man of Steel is Superman 1 and 2 put together. That's what it is.
Do you think so? Lex first was a smart idea for this movie series for Superman.
Yes, I would. This
Yeah.
version of Lex's way. I get what they were going for with Snyder, especially with the dude Tech Bro and the certain aspects of Luthor's origin where he was belittled by his father for lack of a more appropriate term.
Yeah.
I get what they were going for, but especially with the executives rushing Batman BVS, you weren't really going to be able to articulate that without coming across as either cringe or over the top.
Mhm.
It was just too many cooks in the kitchen with BVS. The Ultimate Edition trims the fat where it can, but again, it just stemmed from a poor foundation. Now,
Yeah.
moving on to now, Nicholas Holt's Lex Luthor, a little too leans over on the petty side. He tries to go a little too. He tries to be a little bit of S-Task, Superman the Animated Series. No one's beating Clancy Brown in terms of that level of performance.
Yeah.
Yes.
No one's beating Clancy Brown. Let's be honest. But I appreciate the reach. But yeah, but Nicholas Hoult, great chemistry with everybody involved, even with the goofier scenes. And although I'm not a fan of Luthor's little tantrum towards the end, you probably could have conveyed that in a more menacing way with the dialogue. Other than that, I mean, the chemistry more than makes up for it. So I'm not really going to fault Nicholas Hoult.
At least he would act like the Riddler.
Oh, just wait till you see Peacemaker episode 6.
I've actually seen the episode. I might. Do
I've not seen one. I've not watched Peacemaker yet, but I know that CM Punk made a joke about it with his rap when John Cena was still a heel. Of course, the heel run has since been retconned because it was so bad. They had to basically turn back face. He basically poked fun of that during his rap. It's like, oh, he's making movies with James Gunn. He's playing the Peacemaker. He's like wearing tidy whities.
Yeah, but the thing is, James Gunn knows what he's doing because he's bringing these characters into different media, right? Whether it's movies and television, even gaming as well, because he
expanding across the board, not just movies
Yes.
alone.
Do you think it was kind of weird they brought in the character from the Authority to be a supporting villain, the engineer?
No.
She's just there to set up the Authority, whether it's going to be repurposed as an animated project or a TV show. She's just there for setup. Replace engineer with Mercy, and nothing in the story changes.
It's
I'll be
weird
honest.
that we have her interact with Lex because in the comic, these two have never interacted before.
I'll be honest with you. I think the engineer will be the next Mercy Grave. I don't think Mercy Graves will be introduced in this.
She'll
movie.
become akin to Mercy. She'll become a stand-in for Mercy. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Solana?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, those that might be curious, did Mercy ever existed in the previous DCU? She did in Batman Superman, and that was it.
Because
A very
you know,
blink and you'll miss it cameo. I don't even remember the exact time frame she appears. She only gets like 2 scenes.
but
It's
mind
simple,
you,
it's simple with Jimmy, where he's like, "Oh, here's Jimmy, works for CIA. Bam, you're dead." Because I didn't care about him.
but here's the thing: like the Authority is not going to move forward.
No,
I don't think it's moving forward because James Gunn has literally said he wants to put bigger IPs on the big screen. He's
The
not
only
gonna-
way you can make the Authority work is 1 or 2 scenes. And Movie Theater King, I promise we'll let you have the mic in a moment. But there's only 1 or 2 ways you can make the Authority work without making it an Elseworld. Either make it effectively Superman versus the Elite, because again, the Elite were inspired by the Authority, or adapt World War Saga in a later film. Those are the only 2 scenarios you can make it work.
Yeah, go on ahead, Movie Theater King.
Well, like, let's say James Gunn gets like at most 3 to 5 Superman films,
Okay.
and we just start off the bat with Lex Luthor.
All right.
And with everything being set up now, who name the 4 villains or even villain teams you would like to see that Superman alone would have to fight against? I'm thinking if you said the Elite, I thought, oh, are we gonna do like a Superman the Elite? I would also like to see Brainiac and what was their name? No, the newest Superman villain alongside Parasite. So yeah, 3, because have we ever seen like a Parasite in any as the main villain of a Superman film?
He works better in animated media. For example, the Tomorrowverse of the same name, Superman Man of Tomorrow, to where Parasite was a standout, underestimated villain.
Wasn't really.
He
I
played
think
That's how it's more.
the thing with Parasite is, here's kind of the problem with him. He's one of those characters that Warner Brothers got to put him in CG.
complete special effects.
He is one of, I think, like 2 or 3 they had to put in CG because everyone else is pretty simple they can do, but him has to be CG. If they do Metallo again, because Metallo's never appeared in the movies. He's only appeared, he's appeared a couple times live action.
Maybe some basic motion capture with Metallo. You wouldn't have to go all in compared to what you would have to do for Parasite in live action.
The only character I can think of we had to do CG besides him, there's 2 others. One is Darkseid, unless somehow they can do practical with him,
Mongol.
and Doomsday.
Wait, can you get away with no Mongol? You can't do practical unless you use
Yeah.
like a folk suit.
Yeah, but Doomsday's F1, you got the CG, and has to be better than the one they have Batman Superman, because the problem with him appearing in that movie, he appeared way too soon. Way too soon. Anybody who saw him in that movie, I'm like, this does not look like Doomsday. It feel like an incomplete version of the character. because it just didn't feel like him at all. I don't know how Dan Jurgens feel about it at all because he's the one who created them. So I don't know how he felt about it.
I don't think Dan Jurgens ever commented on BVS. If he did, he's either buried it or he's been archived.
Yeah. Though that's one of 2 live action Doomsday they've had. The other was in Smallville.
And so, wait, didn't they do a Doomsday adaptation of Superman and Lois with Bizarro?
Yes.
I'm not sure because I never watched that one. My dad did. He watched Superman Lois and Clark, the recent one.
Oh, sorry for spoiling that for you, Nate. But yeah, that was at some point.
I have read that they put Morgan Edge in the show and they made him Superman's brother.
Yes, they did.
Yes.
I'm like, really? Morgan Edge. At least it made more sense when he appeared in Supergirl. It made more sense for him appear there than Maxwell Lord, a character who has nothing to do with Supergirl. And I have a TS about that version and the one period in Wonder Woman. It's like he appreciates that they featured them, but they don't feel like his character he created. That's according to him.
Fair enough. As for movie theater, as for your question, I hate to cut you off, Talati. I would do. So we already had Lex, and then assuming based off the Man of Tomorrow title, I would go with Brainiac for Superman 2. Or whatever for Man of Tomorrow. Supergirl is just going to be a direct adaptation of Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow with Creme of the Yellow Hills. And then maybe Lobo as a secondary villain because, yes, Tom King did pitch Lobo and did include Lobo in the original pitch, but editorial wouldn't let him do it. So, yeah, he's going to be added on as a secondary villain.
I heard Tom King is going to be involved with the Supergirl movie.
Yes, he is.
That's what I just said, Nick. Sorry for confusing you. But, but I just see that as one.
I did ask about that one last time I saw him. He is definitely confirmed to be part of that. And he was part of the New Gods movie that was going to be due for the original movies. But I don't know if it's been canceled, but that was definitely true. He was going to do that, but then they canceled it for reasons.
Okay, thank you for the trivia, Nick. Thank you so much. So where was I before I lost my train of thought? Oh yeah,
you're talking about
Supergirl.
Thank you. Supergirl is going to be a spin-off title in this little Superman saga or Super Family saga. I don't see Supergirl getting a direct sequel unless it's an ensemble with Superman, just based off the marketability of the character and from a business standpoint. What else? Okay, as for a potential Superman 3, I don't want to do Doomsday. I want to avoid Doomsday at all costs if I absolutely have to. Because again, Superman 3 is going to be Chapter 2 at the absolute earliest, assuming the DCU even gets that far. So I want to avoid Doomsday as much as conventionally possible.
But you got to remember, Jay, is that James Gunn is telling a Superman story from start to finish. He's not doing Superman 2, 3, 4, 5. He's not doing that. He's doing multitude of films. So, for example, you got Superman, Man of Tomorrow. You're gonna then think about the Man of Steel, stuff like that, right? Think of names that can work within the Superman world that can be told. Like Warworld Saga is up there. Warworld Saga would be definitely up there with Mongol. I can see that being a thing.
Agreed.
And honestly, I don't see Brainiac and Superman versus the Elite. I don't see that happening at all.
Yeah. If they adapt Warworld Saga, my best suggestion, have Phil and Karen Johnson be consultant because he's the one who wrote the original story.
I mean, you kind of have to if you're going to use Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow. You kind of need PKJ as a consultant. You kind of have to.
Yeah. You have to use
the Brainiac thing. Assuming there is a story called that, but that was Jeff Johns. I think Byrne did the artwork for that one, if I'm not mistaken.
Brainiac, one that inspired Brainiac Unbound. Are you confused?
Yeah, the one inspired the one Superman Unbound movie that was adapted as a miniseries. I think it was the first Jeff Johns work adapted for animation.
Yes, it was.
The only things I could think it was adapted for animation that was based on Jeff Johns' work was Flashpoint Paradox. I believe it was the first 2 Justice League movies, Justice League Dark Apocalypse. I think that was it.
Yeah, Justice League War, Throne of Atlantis, and Apocalypse War. It took elements from Dark Side War from Darkseid, but it kind of took a Days of Future Past type situation. It kind of took a Days of Future Past type vibe to it.
Yeah.
But instead of an overarching, well, would we make that comparison? Because they don't time travel; they just kind of clear the
No,
board.
but the thing is with the Justice League Dark
Thank you.
fuck.
Let's get it back on track. Thank you.
Justice League Dark Apocalypse War, it was the ending of that timeline,
Yes,
basically, right? So it wasn't a Days of Future Past situation. I would say it's more of maybe Days of Future Past, but I think more of the Flash.
Flashpoint or no, Ultimatum's going too far, but I get where you're coming from. But I can see the argument.
But like Flash, like the movie Flash, where he
Yeah.
went back in time.
But the purpose of it was to reboot everything. Yeah, okay.
Reboot. Yeah, so if you think about it like that, but the way I see it is that like I said, you're not gonna get like Brainiac and Superman versus Daily. You're not gonna get that, or the Authority. You're not gonna get that.
I think the last known live action version of Brainiac was actually in Krypton.
Yes, it was.
Yes,
It was.
surprisingly good show. A shame it didn't get broader appeal. Surprisingly good show.
I can't tell if it was 2 seasons, and I think it also features the first ever live action experience of Lobo.
Yep.
Yes, it was. That was another show that had Lobo first time ever live action. Same with Brainiac. But also I'll say this is that the way that the DCU is going, it's spreading across the board, and James Gunn knows what he's doing. Right? He's talking to the audience. Yeah, I think he's talking too much. I think James Gunn does talk way too much on social media. But at least he's giving the audience answers.
Movie Theater King, anything you would like to add?
Well, it's been interesting. It was interesting theories here and there, but honestly, I thought with what James Gunn was trying to do was like try to clear up misconceptions about Superman, try to bring him into the consciousness, because like I think for the past decade with whole Zack Snyder, does the public really know who Superman really is, or do they know the Snyder version of Superman?
That is a good question, and let me offer you a rebuttal. If people are starting to show signs of contempt or outright distaste for Injustice, then that proves to you that people are more aware of what Superman's supposed to represent. Granted, Injustice is an Elseworld story, but let's be honest, Injustice is edgy as heck. That is the cleanest way I could possibly say it. It is overly bleak. It's not even appealing as a Mortal Kombat fan. It's over the top.
So I'll say I'll add this as well.
Thank you, because I was going to go on a bloody tangent.
So I'll say this: Injustice came out the same time as Man of Steel. So
That's true.
you got to remember, Man of Steel was a darker, more grounded Superman film, and not a light-hearted Superman film that is kid-friendly. I would say that got people jumping for joy. Let's put it like that: jumping for joy, and people were like, "Oh, this is like for all audiences." The general audience loved Superman. That was a major thing. The general audience loved Superman. Now, the public love Henry Cavill, but the reason why they love Henry Cavill is because he's played Superman, but he's also played other things too in other stuff. Like he's going to be in Highlander. He was Geralt of Rivia in The Witcher, and he's playing other roles. So there's a big thing about Henry Cavill that he's had bigger presence in other properties.
Oh, Claudia, did you hear that Drew McIntyre is going to be part of the Highlander cast? He's playing Henry Cavill's brother.
Yes, I did. I retweeted that earlier.
Which that was a very interesting casting choice because McIntyre is Scottish.
Yeah. But bringing it back to Henry Cavill,
please.
It's like Henry Cavill was a popular name from 2013 to 2016, 2017, right? But you got to remember, after 2017, without being, saying,
he lost a lot of momentum.
He lost a lot of momentum, and there's a lot of things like that add into that factor, right? The whole CGI mustache thing and all
Which
of that.
that was a contract reason why they had to do that.
Yeah, and that really that damaged his reputation, but it kind of dampened a little bit with his relationship with Warner Brothers.
True.
So that's why I'm saying that when it comes down to Superman, the character for the DCEU, it was you weren't going to get another Man of Steel film because of the fact he wanted to do it.
He was
Don't get me
willing.
wrong, he was willing to do it, but it was just money and
Timing and trying to build back from a poor foundation. Not to mention the Rock's power play leading up to Black Adam didn't do Cavill any favors.
It didn't do any favors, but also you got to add more fuel to the fire, right? It's the fact that a lot of people want the Snyderverse return.
In
I'll
some
be honest,
capacity, yes.
but it's not going to happen.
No.
Should I tell you why?
Mm-hmm.
The reason why it's not going to happen is because James Gunn is going to focus solely on the universe, build that universe up from the ground up, and then WB obviously going to sell the company. Like David Zaslav has said that he wants to sell off the company, but if you sell it off to another company, you aren't gonna get another Superman that is gonna overshadow this Superman. You're not gonna get that, right? And that's something people got to understand and got to realize that yes, James Gunn is Superman. David Cornsworth Superman is the foundation that's building on a universe, right? And that's the thing. And they do if they do another Snyderverse film, yes, Snyderverse fans are going to eat, but then they're going to ask for more and more and more and more and more.
It's a slippery slope. Now, it's a slippery slope.
The only way you could get the Snyderverse back is animation, either animation or comics.
That would be the safest route to go about it.
That's the safest route. You can't just say live action or nothing, right?
No,
you can't say that. No, it does not work in this day and age.
Yeah.
I actually want to add on just very quickly, Talati. I really appreciate you being on board with this conversation.
Yeah.
People are sick of the multiverse trend. Marvel ran it into the freaking ground
because they overdid it. That's why
Marvel overdid it, but DC right now they are doing a multiversal thing
to a degree, but they're taking their time with it.
They're taking the time. They're fleshing out the characters, right? For example, right, as a really good example, Peacemaker tackles the multiverse.
Okay. Right.
And it's doing it really well. The storytelling is really done really well. It's not like your mumbo jumbo type of thing, right? And it's not like, for example, so when we had the Flash, right, we went back into another alternate universe, right? Where it was Michael Keaton's Batman, not Ben Affleck's Batman. So think about it like that. It's a multiversal universe, and then he went into another universe. So it was really mumbo jumbo there. But this is more fleshed out. There's no like, for example, James Gunn said Earth 2, and he hasn't said, oh, we're gonna get Earth 3 and stuff like that. But he has mentioned in his commentary that the Ultraman possibly could be returning, right? He has mentioned that. So there's a potential for an Earth 3 storyline in the future, right? So he's taking his time. He's not jumbling things up, and he's not mashing things up like how Marvel is doing it right now. And they're confusing their audience, like Marvel Zombies is really confusing, and What If is confusing, and all of that. It's done. What DC is doing, they're doing it right. They're not rushing things through.
I would say Loki and Doctor Strange Mom were the worst offenses, because at least with Loki, that's a poor example. At least with Deadpool and Wolverine and they actually utilized the TVA effectively. They didn't treat it like a bunch of action figures clashing with each other. They genuinely had a story. Now, was most of that story zany nonsense? Yes. Was it mostly stemmed from Deadpool kills the Marvel Universe? Though there's an entire trilogy with that premise, or which one they're directly inspired from, I wouldn't be able to tell you. But at least there's an overarching story despite the multiverse shenanigans. It was Fox's swan song after getting acquisitioned by Disney.
I'm going to be honest with you. I just think the way Disney and Fox were handling it was interesting.
Fair enough.
It was interesting, but like I said, Marvel handled it really badly after No Way Home.
I agree. Now, one decent fan service movie does not save a phase or an overall trend, entertainment trend. I will not refute that.
Mhm.
But no, even No Way Home. Let's actually talk. I'm sorry, I know we're deviating from Superman, but please bear with us. Even with Spider-Man No Way Home, they actually had some level of consequence there because it was Peter going from Iron Boy or Iron Man sidekick outside of War Machine to finally becoming Spider-Man with great power comes great responsibility. You took an overarching theme that is established and implemented, at least in other versions, over the course of the first 30 to 45 minutes and dragged it out into an entire trilogy or more due to contract obligations.
So to answer Movie Theater King's
Thank you,
comment,
because that's a tangent of itself. Please.
so bring him like he's just asked. James Gunn could use the DC as a cool gateway for people to see who and what DC Comics universe. This will cater it to different and better MCU use 6110. Gunn is using it. Yes, James Gunn is using the DC as a whole, but like I said, he's doing like different Earths. He's not saying 6110. He's not saying stuff like that. He's calling it Earth.
He's
2.
combining bits and pieces.
He's doing it from the comics and putting it there.
True.
And it's not confusing the audience. It won't confuse the audience because the different incarnations of the character. For example, Peacemaker season 2, there was 2 Peacemakers, right, in season 2, and they both had a different logo. So you could tell the difference immediately. Right?
Right.
So I'll say that I know some people haven't watched Peacemaker, and I'll tell you right now, it's not for kids. Peacemaker season 2 is not for kids. So if I was somebody under the age of 18, I would skip Peacemaker and jump straight into Supergirl or Lanterns. Just
because other than the world building, you're not really missing that much.
You're not gonna miss much. Yeah, you're not really missing much. If you're a really diehard fan, then
just make sure the kids aren't present. Just make sure you give them a child-friendly summary of Peacemaker season 2.
That's what I'm saying. I'm giving it a summary. It's like it's not. I'm not gonna break that boundary because it's not made for kids. So that's what I'm saying. But James Gunn know what he's doing. Like he's building a universe that works. And I know people are gonna hate me for this, saying I'm a gun nut or what. I'm talking about the storytelling. I'm talking about the fact that the storytelling is there. He's building on the storytelling, and he's getting involved. He's getting his hands dirty, and getting involved across the board. Whether it's Peacemaker, whether it's movies, he's getting his hand involved with projects. And yes, he's letting other people do other things too, like Clayface. That's a horror film. You're getting Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow, which is another sci-fi film, and you're getting a Lantern show, which is basically sci-fi television show. They're all different things, and it's not the same. It's not the same thing. It's not the same sort of media you're getting. But like I said, when it comes down to looking at this from outside in, DC is actually making the most of the opportunities. That's why we're getting Batman Legacy of the Dark Knight, and they're telling 86 years, as an example, 86 years of DC. You're getting 86 years of Batman, and they're not tackling Superman. They're not tackling the Justice League. Remember, it's solely Batman, and James Gunn has literally talked about Batman extensively.
I do actually want to bring this up because I have seen discussion on this online. Yes, you see all the edits and TikTok and social media and the contrast, but Matt Reeves has explicitly stated, and even when all the negotiation was going on behind the scenes, I'm not even talking about whether or not Zaslav is going to cut his losses and sell DC off the first chance he gets, because he's openly admitted if he gets a buyer, he'll do it. He's openly
Paramount is offered to buy Warner Bros.
Paramount, Netflix, and I'm pretty sure they're the third buyer, but I can't remember the name at the moment. But before we go into that, as is, regardless of whether or not Zaslav ultimately gets a deal and the Federal Communication Commission approves it, regardless of that, because that's at least 2 years out, bare minimum, there's no room for Matt Reeves' epic crime saga to be reintegrated into the DCU proper.
Mhm.
There's just no room for it. Not just in terms of this is a grounded Batman and how grounded Batman has become stale. Although that is commercially true, that's not what we're talking about. What we're talking about is the fact that regardless that Batman is the golden goose of DC. Batman is going to sell in some capacity regardless. The safest commercial option is to let, at the very least, Matt Reeves get a duology with his epic crime saga and then reboot with the DCU Batman going forward. From a commercial business standpoint, that is the safest. If you really try to combine the two, it is a fool's errand because the only way you'll be able to make it work is if you pretty much treat the epic crime saga as a glorified origin story. That is the only way you'll be able to pull it off, and even then, there's no way you're going to be able to execute that for everyone to enjoy. Taladia, your thoughts?
I'm going to be honest with you. When it comes down to Matt Reeves and the Batman, at least he's already made the statement that said, "Look, it's not going to
Carry over.
It's not going to cross over with another universe, right?"
Thank you.
Because it's a crime saga, and it's telling 3 films, and maybe
2
one or
spin-offs.
two spin-offs, but that's pretty much it. You're not going to get any more than that, and I can tell you that as facts. I know some people might hate the idea, but that's why his contract is up to. That's why his contract is obliged to. Will he dip his hand in the DCU? Yes.
Yeah,
He
but
might-
it won't be with Pattinson. Not to mention, Pattinson in real life, this is the Twilight guy. He is pushing 40 if he hasn't turned 40 already.
Yes.
No. So
Could be
I don't
pulled
move
off.
it.
Like, he is
I'm-
not committing a full decade on top of everything else he's done.
No, he's not doing what Zack Snyder did or
No.
what.
I've
Kevin
heard a
Feige-
story that he was actually cheaper than Ben Affleck to pay as
Yeah.
Batman because I heard the story that his salary is like $5 million, I think it is. Where Cavill and Affleck were. This has been reported. This was a few years ago. I heard about this. DC was Warner Bros. Was paying him $35 million apiece to play these characters. They didn't say anything about Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman or Jason Momoa as Aquaman. Just these two. I'm like, $35 million to play Batman and Superman for these 2 actors. And my theory, the reason why they can bring it back because they refuse to pay these salaries. And I've heard Cavill has stated that he's really wanted to do a comic accurate Superman, but Warner Bros. Keeps telling him no. This is before the new Superman, by the way.
No, but the thing is, WB screwed Henry over as
Yes.
much. They screwed him over because they said yes to him, and they said James Gunn said something else to James Gunn, and that's why James Gunn made a statement. He did it on Josh Horowitz interview, where he said, "Look, I was told completely different to what Henry was told, so I had to have a conversation with Henry. Henry was a gentleman about it, and he literally made a statement, right?
Mhm.
He was a guy." So I can still see James Gunn bringing Henry Cavill into the fold,
Just not a Superman.
just not
Yeah,
as Superman.
Yeah, I've heard also, I don't know if this is really true or not, of the reason why they can't bring back Gal Gadot, because they thought she was getting too old to play Wonder Woman, despite the time she stopped last time she played Wonder Woman. She was only 39, and I'm like, that's not old to play Wonder Woman. She looks great for her age.
No,
They
there's
want
two
a
reasons.
series of. I'll go ahead and explain this to you. They
Yeah,
want
fine.
their casting call to be in the 20s, in the late 20s to early to mid 30s range. Ain't because say the DCU is a decent success, at least with commissions and contract dealings, you're looking at a decade plus just to get through Chapter 1, Gods and Monsters alone. You could get a few more good years out of Gal Gadot. Admittedly, you could, especially if she maintains a decent regimen. But she's not going to retain her looks and appeal for another 10 years straight. On
Can I
top
be
of the
honest?
baggage from '84, we have to be realistic here.
Can I be honest?
Please go ahead, Talati.
There's too many political things with her. Too
That is
many
also
problems.
true. That is also
She's
true.
she's got too many problems politically that she's got a bad rep in Hollywood right now, especially with Disney. And
Is
that's a
over
fact.
the what was over the Snow White movie?
Not
Yeah.
that, not that's Rachel Zegel. That's a whole separate can of worms. But
I didn't know she was in it.
No, she was in it, but there was like conflicted things between the actors, and on top of that, she's politically involved with the whole. Politically involved. Let's put it like that. She's politically involved, right? And WB does not want to be associated with somebody who's really political right now.
they want to be
That-
as neutral as possible.
They want to be as neutral as possible. They do not want to get somebody that is not somebody that is really political and using their political views for public
Platform.
gain, for public platform, right?
Do you remember the
And-
complaints people had about her when she was first cast as Wonder Woman? Where
That-
people thought she was too skinny. And
Go ahead, Nick. Go ahead.
that one, I can kind of buy it because she looked a bit thin, but she did put muscle on. Another complaint which I heard was really stupid, and I'm like, why the heck would you complain about this? They complained about her chest size, and I'm like, that's a stupid thing to complain about. Who freaking cares?
That's not the problem. The problematic thing is the political
the
view.
baggage. The baggage.
This is before the political stuff when she was first cast around like early 2010s when they were doing Batman Superman. People were complaining about her. Also, the fact that she couldn't act. That was another problem because the way she portrayed her character in Fast and Furious 5, that was a complaint I heard about about how when she was cast as Wonder Woman. Jesse Eisenberg, when he's first cast as Lex, the biggest complaint people had about him is that they thought he was too young, and because they associated more with Social Network because they just recently came out. People had the assumption, Lex Luthor's universe invented Facebook because he played Mike Zuckerberg in Social Network.
So when it comes down to what Snyder did, it's different. Yes,
Different circumstances.
it was different circumstances for that time period, but now we're in 2020s, right? We're in the mid 2020s now. We're going back to the classic sort of looks. We're not going back to the
New 52 inspired.
new
edgy.
50. We're not going back to like the dark and gritty era of DC, right? And that's what people got to understand. Like, we're not going down that rabbit of Wonder Woman is going to be dark and gritty and, she's going to be we're not going to get that. If you're going to get something like that, you'd be like maybe a horror film like Clayface. Like, Clayface is a horror, dark and gritty film. Batman won't be
Clayface for horror. Are they going to go with the Golden Age version where he was a serial killer or the shapeshifter?
shapeshifter. I believe.
Likely the shapeshifter because that Cape Crusader kind of did a whole golden vibe, golden era,
Yeah.
golden.
Because the Golden Age, the original one, Basil Carlo, he was a serial killer who didn't go by Clayface, but he was a shapeshifter. He didn't become a shapeshifter into the storyline Mudpack because the first one was a shapeshifter was Matt Hagen.
That's the character they're going with, Matt Hagen.
Interesting to go with him instead of Basil Carlo because it's weird to go with him. Do you think it's because when people think of Clayface, people think of Matt Hagen first or Basil Carlo?
They think of
I
Matt
would
Hagen.
argue Hagen. Now the Carlo name is more recognizable, but Hagen's origin is more memorable.
Hagen is more memorable, but on top of that, he's an actor. So think about it like that.
Matt Hagen was not an actor.
Carlo,
The original Hagen, Carlo was an actor. He was a horror actor. And he became a serial killer because remake was movies about him. Matt Hagen was an archaeologist who became a villain because of exposure to whatever thing that turned him into Clayface.
Wait. Isn't Matt Hagen from the animated series an actor?
no, that's based off Carlo. They just gave him the Hagen name, but he's based off Carlo.
So that's
Yes,
what
the
they're
first
doing.
time we actually had the Basil Carlo Clayface appear in animation was in The Batman, except he was the second Clayface because they had original character become Clayface thanks to the Joker, and then we had Basil Carlo become Clayface. And I don't know if the other ones even feature Basil Carlo as Clayface because that's the first one I knew of.
I know the DCAU did Carlo. Young Justice did Carlo.
But the DCAU they used the Matt Hagen name, and that's what James Gunn is doing. He's
Yes.
using the Matt Hagen name, and
They're
that's what
giving Carlo's origin.
give
Yeah,
Harlow's
but the thing
origin.
is, the origin of the show was not exactly the same as in the comic. In the show, it was like he was an actor who put on this special makeup to
Yeah,
make him look handsome.
Yes.
He was addicted to it, so he broke into a rich Daggett's facility to get the stuff, and then
He
Daggett's
backed-
like, "Oh, you love our formula so much? Here you go. Let's have a whole big pot of this stuff on him," and that's how it became Clayface in the show.
that's that from set photos for because they're filming in England for the Clayface film. I do know there's quite a handful of things that are popping up here and there. Now, yes, they used the Robert Pattinson Batman logo, which I think because they didn't know what Batman logo they're gonna go with.
It's just a
Right.
stand-in prop.
It's just
That's really-
it's just
Yes.
a stand-in prop, just pretty much same as what's it called, Morbius, where
Yeah.
they used Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man from Spider-Man
for the
PS4.
poster. It's just a stand-in prop.
It was just a stand-in
Yeah.
prop. Yeah.
I think in the case of that one, people might mistakenly assume Clayface takes place in the same universe as Batman, but I'm sure Gunn probably would clarify it does not take place in the same universe as the Batman.
No, I already know it's not taking place in the Batman because
Yeah, we know it doesn't, but the general public know about it because some people don't use Google for some weird reason. The case in point with Kevin Feige making Namor Mayan, despite the fact he's Atlantean.
Which,
So-
ironically enough, say what you will about Namor and Aquaman being similar archetypes, outside their personality differences, but Aquaman debuted first.
Actually, Namor did.
Really? Like I know it's by a small year gap. I know it's by a small gap.
1939.
Okay, thank you for clearing that up.
Yeah,
But
he did the same year as Jim Hammond Human Torch,
Thank you.
which he does exist in the MCU, but he never spoke because there was a scene in the first Captain America movie. There was that display of like that thing in the tube. That was Jim Hammond.
Thank you for clearing that up for me, Nick. But back to what we were saying before. Again, stand-in props. But ultimately, especially with the dynamic duo with that, I feel like dynamic duo is just going to be standalone. I don't see it connecting to the Crime Saga or the DCU proper. The safest option would be to make dynamic duo Elseworld or standalone. That would be the safest option.
And I've heard they're making the Robin Damian.
yes, they are.
Yes.
Yes,
yes.
they are.
So let's go ahead and talk about that right quick since we're and Movie Theater King. I definitely want your opinion on this as well. It depends on how they go about it, because if you do include Tim Drake, okay, so a solid Batman and Son adaptation, and then you probably have a post-credit scene with Tim branching off and starting the Teen Titans, feeling slighted that he was snubbed to the Robin role. Pretty easy fix. You just have to change who the main villain is. Maybe change it from Talia and Man-Bat to like Deathstroke, but not make it too similar to Son of Batman. Kind of like a Green Lantern, First Lantern.
Also,
situation.
please don't ignore Tim Drake because it seems like DC Comics loves to ignore him or pretend he doesn't exist.
They don't know what to do with him. Ever since Damian came onto the scene, they know they can't shelve him because Tim is a generational character. They know they
And
can't shelve him.
people love him. People loved him. Readers love him.
They know they can't shelve him out light. They just have to give him something. Red Robin was a good first step, but it was never going to last.
Yes, and the fact that his outfit was the Kingdom Come Robin outfit originally.
Originally.
He switched to the outfit he had in New 52 where he had wings. Which I'm like, since when can Tim Drake fly? He's never flown before in comics before that.
Okay,
That was a weird choice.
let's hear from Movie Theater King because I want to hear his
Please.
opinion.
You're talking about Tim Drake Robin, right?
Yes, we're
Yes.
talking about Tim Drake and possibly being in the DCU.
So I know that in this universe, does he already have all four Robins like Tim?
Yes.
Drake?
Yes, it's implied that at the very least,
Hmm.
the main four, but whether Jason's back as Red Hood, they might save that for a sequel. But for all intents and purposes, we're at that point. For all intents and purposes.
So let me just try this. So you think you either want him to form the Teen Titans, but isn't that like Dick Grayson's kind of shtick. He's one of the founders of the Titans.
Yes,
Okay,
Dick Grayson's known from the Titans normally.
Mhm.
Tim did find his own version
The
a
outset.
couple times. There was one from 03 with Jeff Johns that he helped start that one, and the one from 2011.
Yeah, we are not talking about the new 52 Teen Titans. I cannot stress this enough. No, I'm using Tim as a post credit to set up the Teen Titans project, not start the team in of itself.
Mhm.
Maybe
Oh.
Grayson.
Yeah, but who else we had in the lineup? That's the question.
That is
So,
true.
so here's the thing, right? They're doing a Titans film,
Yes.
right?
Mhm.
And they're doing a Bat Family film, which is featuring Damian Wayne, Brave and the Bold.
Yes.
Right? Now we also know that there's a dynamic duo film, which is going to feature Jason Todd and Dick Grayson, which is
Yes.
a DC studio project, and that's already been confirmed as Red Hood and
Nightwing.
Nightwing, right?
I think the big question for those two characters is I think a lot of people are going to be asking this who's playing these people?
We won't get any news on that till
Till at least 2026.
2026.
Yeah, I think I did hear something. Gunn does not want to write the script for his Batman after Batman Part 2 comes out.
He won't say anything about the Brave and the Bold stuff until 2027, at the very least.
At the very least, that'll give time for the Batman Part 2 to come out, see how it'll do, and whether or not the higher ups want to commission a third and wrap up the trilogy.
Yeah, and I think in the case of Gunn, he's probably going to try to learn the mistakes from Snyder, the Snyder era.
Movie theater.
Yeah,
King,
he's
your
learning.
thoughts?
Go on, movie theater king.
So we can't snub Tim Drake, but based on what you're all saying, they're not really going to put him in like a movie of his own per se. There's potential with the Titans, but it's
He's not going to get a solo
don't
project.
do-
Anything Tim does will be ensemble. Yes, you are correct,
Yeah.
because Tim is not that high profile of a character on his own like that. I grew up in the 90s. I grew up with the DCAU. It pains me to say it, but this is the objective truth. But
The
please,
only thing that they could do with Tim, if they're anything solo wise, TV show.
No, he's not going to be in the TV show. It'll be part of the Bat
not after
family.
Titans. Not after Titans.
Mm-hmm.
But movie theater king, please continue.
But yeah, even above Damian Wayne though. So like, if you want to make a film that stars Tim Drake, I mean, the comics, there's a Young Justice version of one where he leads the team, but he could just make his own. If not, if you want to include Tim Drake in this universe, it would have to be with a way that introduces readers to a potential film that stars him and a few other, let's just say, a mix of notable characters and characters that could really use some spotlight along with Tim Drake.
So rather than having Tim be a means to spin off into a Teen Titans, you would prefer Tim be used to spin off a Young Justice project. Is that what you're telling us?
It doesn't have to be Young Justice. It could be just like, we all know James Gunn's a comic reader and he wants to show the best parts of the DC universe, right?
Right.
And we all know that with all these projects, Tim Drake doesn't really stand that much of a chance, especially compared to like the dynamic duo of Nightwing and the Red Hood, the Brave and the Bold with Batman and Damian Wayne.
Tim is a good everyman in what Bruce needed to come to terms after what happened to Jason.
So
But
can I
ju-
say something?
Go ahead, Taladia.
Brave and the Bold will feature majority of the Bat family.
Yes.
That's without a shadow of a doubt, right?
Mhm.
But they're going to introduce Damian Wayne in this film, right? You're not going to get like, oh, Damian Wayne's already established. He's going to be introduced in this.
And he's
right?
going to be our POV character. Kind of
And
similar to what they did with the DeCamu movies.
Yeah, pretty much, right? Like son of Batman, right? But the reason why I say this is because I don't think we're gonna get a Young Justice project, and I don't see them tackling. I don't see we're gonna get anything Titans till probably end of 2030, right?
Chapter 2 onward.
Yeah, basically chapter 2 onwards, right?
Right.
And this is what I'm saying, like movie theater king. I know you probably want Tim Drake to have his own thing, but that's not going to happen, unfortunately, because the way James Gunn thinks is that he's going to put Damian Wayne involved in a lot of these projects. After the Brave and the Bold film, you possibly see him introduced into the Titans movie project, and Dick Grayson's going to be a part of that because he's the founder of the Teen Titans, the original Teen Titans. So
Yeah.
that makes sense.
Mhm.
So you're not going to get like, oh, is Dick Grayson, not Dick Grayson, Tim
Drake.
Drake going to get his stuff? No. Everything points towards him just being a part of Brave and the Bold, and like him like kind of teaching the ropes to Damian Wayne. Reason.
That's what I fear. I mean, like, in this movie, this feels like okay, yeah, I was Robin for a while. Damian Wayne, let me show you the ropes. And then after like some various scenes where, oh no, how could you do this, Damian? And like, oh Damian, you saved the day. He's gonna pass the mantle on to Damian Wayne.
I don't see it going that route because that's not even what happened in the comics.
I know.
I understand the concern, movie theater king. Believe me, I do. But this is the biggest misconception in the past 15, 20 years.
Yeah.
Damian did not snub.
I know they fought him.
Yes, it was Grayson's call. Damian did not snub Tim with the Robin mantle. Grayson, because I'm sick of bots. I'm trying to avoid bots as much as possible. Grayson wanted to give Tim an opportunity to either rebrand, outright leave the life, like Tim was tempted to do during the return of Ra's al Ghul storyline. That was actually set up for it about a good year and a half to 2 years prior to Batman and Robin Reborn. So the setup was there. If they actually wanted to write out Tim, have him go civilian, and shelve him for a while, the setup was there. They just didn't end up going that route because they used Tim as an overarching detective for how Bruce got displaced with the Omega Sanction and all that. But in the context of the DCU, you could still have Tim be bitter about how he made the Robin mantle his own. He helped Bruce and the Bat family as a whole when they were at their worst. And now because of this scandalous Nepo baby, they're using the Robin moniker to keep him on a leash. There is good conflict for Tim to be pissed, Tim to be present and pissed off, especially if you're going to have Ray Shantali as the main villain, or even Grey Ghost as the main villain with the return of Ra's al Ghul storyline,
or the Phantasm. That'd be a good one.
Case in point. But outside of being a secondary antagonist or a dertagonist, Tim will not have a major role in the Batman films or Batman-related films going forward. He'll either rebrand or he'll end up leaving the hero life out of spite. It's one or the other.
We'll have to wait and see, though.
Okay, 2 words. 1, if he does that, leaves the hero act out of spite. You know how much brand damage that's going to do with him, comics-wise, and just overall. Because
it's different for
let
the
him
movies.
cook, Lottie. Let him cook. Let him just hear what he has to say.
Because a lot of the people aren't really comics readers. So if anyone ever picks up a comic later on, say, "Hey, I remember Tim Drake. That was from the movies." And it's like, "Oh, I remember it. Oh, wow, he was bitter then too. Oh, I guess that's just who he is." And then the general populace will form the idea that, oh, Tim Drake's always just going to be bitter, and that's just going to be a horrible branding going forward for Tim Drake, even though it wasn't even in the comics for that long and he got over it.
So here's the thing. Go on.
Go ahead. No, you go ahead.
I'm going to make my counterpoint. Movies is different to comics,
Mhm.
and they're not going to compete with each other, right? The general public aren't going to read or pick up a comic unless James Gunn promotes it, right? And you've got to realize that, yes, James Gunn will promote these comics, and most likely what he'll promote is Brave and the Bold,
Yes.
right? The Brave and the Bold comics. But he's not going to promote a Robin comic that features Tim Drake. You're not going to get that. And you're not going to get something that is Tim Drake centered, focused on Tim Drake. You're not going to get that. It's going to be focused on Damian Wayne. It's going to be focused on Bruce. It's going to be focused on the Bat family. That's what the main focus is going to be on the DC the DCU side of things. If James Gunn decides to bring Tim Drake to the Titans, then yeah, there'll be comics on it. But most likely scenario is you're gonna get stuff that is post-Christ ensemble. Yeah, you're not gonna get stuff that is heavily focused and
exclusively Tim, unless they're trying to make the whole Drake's persona work again. I'm just like, please don't.
No, they're not going to do the Drake persona as well. I don't think they're going to do that. That's something they're not going to do.
I'm making a joke. That would be funny though.
Yeah,
it'd be funny, but yeah.
Makes me think that Historical One's either going to go through two pathways. One, he's just going to show up for one movie and then just leave the entire DCU after that. Or option two, where his story comes with the grips that he has a choice to either accept his like new role and try to find his purpose in all this, while just being like a somewhat supporting character in all the films, whether it be a dual antagonist or a secondary antagonist, until finally they just come together as a family at the whatever last Batman film he's allowed.
I'll play devil's advocate, Talati. I'll play devil's advocate on this one. Okay. You could do a spin-off limited series and call it Red Robin. If you want, if I'm purely making a compromise, if we're literally compromising this, yes, and then how it goes into a detective noir story, very similar to the actual Red Robin run, just without, you would just have to tone a lot of things out, do that what was going on editorial in the original story. You would just have to tone down some things. But yeah, you could make a spinoff focused on Tim, but the most you're going to get is a one and done limited series. It is not going to get a second season. It's not going to carry over into another movie. It is a one and done. Now, if you genuinely want to go that route. Now, if you just want to have Tim be a dirtagonist to clash with Damian for the sake of conflict, and then Tim comes to terms with it before the end of the film, by the end of the film, that would be the smoothest and safest way to go about it from a storytelling standpoint. It's either he gets a limited series, a spinoff right after Brave and the Bold ends, and it's a limited series, or you use him to prop up the Teen Titans movie in Chapter 2. Those are your likeliest of options. I'm being fair to you, Movie Theater King.
I know. I'm just saying, I didn't say for one movie. I'm just saying throughout the movies, if it keeps going, that Damian will. No, that makes sense. That Tim is going to be the second type of conflict throughout all the movies until his story arc ends.
I see where you're okay. Thank you for clarifying that. Before I let Taladia take over again, I will say this: if you just have Tim play that dirtagonist role for one movie, it could work. If you haven't keep doing it beyond that, it's just going to become it's just dragging it out. So I will concede you. I will concede you on that.
Yeah. I agree with Jahi on this. And honestly, the best case scenario is to just do that one film and then finish that storyline off at the end. And then that's call it quits. Yes, is it a bummer? Yes. But Tim Drake hasn't been popular in years. There's not
even the Rebirth era, and that did great work for Tim in terms of relevance.
Exactly. Yeah.
I think what killed it was him being on his bye.
The Fitzmartin, that's a separate conversation for a different day, Nick, but I feel like the Fitzmartin run in its entirety squandered Tim's momentum.
I just think personally, it was just because there was too many things going on in Rebirth
at the time.
Yeah, so that's what really killed his momentum. And I know a lot of people are not going to like this, but everything leads towards Damian being the future Batman.
If we're not factoring Batman, Terry McGinnis, or Batman Beyond, if we're not factoring any of that.
Yeah.
And there's no denying that era for Tim was garbage.
Yeah.
Fitzmartin.
So just to finally end this Tim Drake debate, as a whole, not just in the movies, but in the comics, what should DC really do about Tim Drake? I mean, in the movie, it feels like you could not only just write him off, you don't even have to include him. You could just put him in just one scene. It's just I'm leaving Bruce later, and that's it. Just one scene of Tim Drake, and that's it. But in the comics, it makes it sound like he should either be killed off or retired off.
The comics is a much harder battle because, like we said, Tim was the de facto Robin, the modern template for any Robin adaptation over the 90s going forward. Yes, Grayson is more popular, Grayson's the original, but Tim was to set the modern standard. No one is refuting that, Movie Theater King. No one's going to refute that. That makes it harder because you had I'll even use Rebirth as a reference. With Tim contemplating leaving the life to go to Ivy University to reconnect with Spoiler and go to college. Tim has had multiple opportunities to be written out and walk away, but every time he gets dragged back into the hero game, whether it be the death of his father in a drunken stupor by Captain Boomerang, Damien going rogue in the fallout of City of Bane and Alfred's death, and Tim feels that personal responsibility. I'm not saying it's to the point of Peter Parker's savior complex, but it's a similar archetype.
You also got to factor this into as well, Jay. In the Injustice 2 comics, they killed him off.
That is also true. That is also true.
So,
and you had a perfect opportunity to keep him around in that series.
Yeah.
Perfect Tim just does not have the same relevance he did 10, 15 years ago. I'm sorry. He just doesn't.
Yeah, he doesn't. So,
I mean, like, DC does this with a lot of characters. They could just retire or kill them off for like a years or so. Like, they did it with Barry Allen. Like, for over 10 years, Wally West was the definitive Flash for over like a large part of a generation.
Jeff Johns largely commissioned that, and he pressured editorial to make it stick. That's a vacuum compared to what usually happens in the industry. That is a vacuum, and it's a miracle he got away with it twice if we're counting Hal Jordan.
Exactly. So, is there anything else we want to add, or should we?
I do genuinely appreciate this debate, Movie Theater King, and like I said, if we actually, I will follow up with this. Just I'll actually go on the comic side of things because we don't know nothing about the DCU other than what's been officially announced. So other than what we previously discussed, I won't extend from beyond that. But as for the comic side of things, if you're not gonna shelve Tim, because they're actually at least doing a little bit with him with the Matt Fraction run going into issue 2. They're doing a little bit with Tim. I don't know how the issue is going to end because the issue hasn't been released at the time of the stream. Or at least I haven't read it at the time of the stream if it already has.
Yep.
But it seems like he's going to be in a fight for his life, fending off Savage's leveraged GCPD in a chase scene in issue 2. Now, this could be a situation to where he's ultimately injured or incapacitated, and then Damien has to wear a brighter aesthetic, a brighter suit, going on to going off his redesign in the DC solicitations, and how that whole thing, like he's wearing that in honor of Tim. Like, Tim can't be in the field anymore for the time being, so Damien's going to be more of a team player and wear this brighter aesthetic out of respect for Tim. This, like I said, it's a layup. All the editorial team has to do is take the shot. But if they are not going to outright refute, shelve, or kill Tim off. The fan backlash will be egregious. It's just not worth it. That's like Dan DiDio shelve and kill off Nightwing in Infinite Crisis. No, I would know that if Dan DiDio actually got his way in that scenario, that would have been even worse.
Sorry, I'm sorry. I was just
No, you have every right to laugh because it would have been ugly, especially if you were reading the tabloids back then in 2005. If they actually killed off Grayson instead of Connor, it would have been ugly. Like, gee, if you thought anime Ship Wars was bad,
or the whole like Attack of the Amazon things. I think that was you who told me like a few years ago that like after the whole series was released, people threatened to riot because of Amazon attack. I don't know if it's true or not.
Oh man, it was only in select areas, but that storyline was it's bad. It's bad, but it only happened.
Yeah, both the original and the other one are both bad.
Oh.
Like, my gosh. Like, I don't know what the heck DC was thinking at that point because I wasn't reading at that point, but I had to read the series. The original Amazon attack, nothing against World Fight for because the guy has done good work. man, that original book was bad. And the spiritual sequel, the one that came with Tom King's run, it's not as bad as that one is, but
no, it's actually decent in comparison.
yeah, but you notice that the way this whole anti-Amazon thing starts off, it's the same way that Robin War kicked off. Some person who was associated with this caused some explosion or some controversy, and this law is passed that bans all Amazons. I'm like, DC, that's the second time DC played that card. Or doing a low-rent Civil War. And, of course, Marvel carbon copied that with Outlawed.
Wait, did Outlaw? Wait, hold on. Oh, I'm thinking of the. The book never came out, but I'm thinking of the New Warriors. That promo announcement. That's why.
Oh gosh,
Outlaw did end up coming out, but there was supposed to be a new.
Yeah, that like here's the thing. That was one of the main comics that was canceled in 2020. That is one of two that is never released. The other one was Punished versus Barracuda. That looked more interesting to be released than this New Warriors comic. Because I have no problem with the original lineup being there, but my gosh. These new characters, they were awful. Yeah, I did hear about that movie Theater King.
That video was pure cringe. If I had never seen that video again in my life, that promotional visual again.
Apparently, I didn't know this. It's a really good point. Apparently, it was released on my birthday. I didn't. What was I thinking about that particular day? That day is associated with that. But there's one other big thing my birthday is associated for in April 15th, 2020.
Excuse me.
You want to know what it is?
Go ahead. I'm good now. I'm good.
WWE's mass budget cuts. On my birthday. And 1 year later, same thing happened, except it was 10 people this time. I'm like, why are WWE cutting people on my birthday? And then 2022 comes around. I'm like, oh, thank God, no one was my birthday. I was thinking, really, WWE? Why is your obsession with my birthday? Because if it be anybody, I tell my birthday was April 15th, like, really? You were born on the day that I got fired from WWE? Because I think that's some people who are thinking about my birthday. Some rest of them think about my birthday nowadays. Oh, it's the day they got fired.
Oh, man.
And some people who got fired don't do much nowadays.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I don't know if you heard this. They just announced a Collision that the women are getting a blood and guts match.
Okay.
About time. Begging past the year for that. First, you got the tag titles. Now we're getting blood and guts match. All that's next, Anarchy Arena.
So, anything else you guys want to add, or
yeah,
it's getting real. I gotta get ready.
All right, Movie Theater King, you'll be our last topic.
All right. So yeah, I sent you like a little topic in Twitter DMs about Brian Michael Bendis potentially returning to Marvel Comics 2026, but those were rumors, and people are just probably testing the waters to see like if he should come back to like comics. I mean, should he?
He's over Dark Horse last I heard.
Yeah, he wrapped up his patent with DC around Infinite Frontier. I don't think they renewed him.
He was only there for like 3 years.
Yeah, that was a power play. Don't get me wrong, but they never renewed his contract.
Yeah, and I've heard the reason why they renewed because his comics didn't sell. And because of him, indirectly, the comics were nearly canceled because of him.
That is true.
And then Van K. Johnson brought the comic back. Like action. Superman got relaunched as Superman Sam Kal-El by Tom Taylor.
Yeah, that was, for all intents and purposes, nothing wrong with John getting extra panel attention, but that was just a fill-in title while World War Saga was going on.
Yeah, I think that, do you remember the scene where the Adam is gay?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Every time I see it, this seems like a romance scene between a guy and a woman, And I'm like, it's like Tom Taylor replaced the woman with Jay.
The only thing I will say to that, not it does it at least ties it to the story with Jay openly admitting he's using John for political leverage to expose and take down Bendix to get revenge on him, literally becoming a tyrant of his country of Gamora.
Mm-hmm.
So at least Tom Taylor wrote the overall storyline where Jay openly admitted he was using him. But what ultimately squanders Jay as a character for me is that even going into these later storylines and then Lazarus Planet and then everything going on with Absolute Power with Waller, they editorial kept giving excuses for Jay that no, this is a toxic individual who blatantly manipulated a aged up preteen who was aged up due to multiverse shenanigans and was traumatized. And John probably used Jay as a safety blanket so he wouldn't have to deal with that trauma. We can also use the inverse argument as well. Mm-hmm. And it just culminates in something that is very messy and toxic in context. And that is best case scenario. The only pairing I would see that's even remotely as bad as John and Jay, if not worse, is Robin and Jen from Adam Glass. Especially because Jen is over 4,000 years old.
And the fact that Crush had a thing for her too. I gotta admit, despite the fact how that relationship turned out, Adam Glass did create some very interesting characters for his run for for Teen Titans. I like Crush. I think she's a cool character.
Crush was the saving grace of that run. You and I are in perfect agreement on that. She was the saving grace of that run.
Yes. The one character, like anybody looks at this character, I'm like, it's the character Roundhouse.
Yeah.
Is my best estimation that the only reason this character was brought in was because someone at DC wanted to replicate the whatever success Gold Balls was, because literally he's a Gold Ball stand-in.
Gold. I'm unaware of that reference. Please clarify, Nick.
Gold Balls, the character Bendis created for all new X-Men.
Oh, okay. Now I think
where it's like a chubby guy, he shoots out balls, and he becomes a ball. Some could also see him as like a modern day equivalent to Bouncy Boy for lead superheroes because he bounces.
Okay, now I'm catching on to what. Sorry, it's
almost, like, it's and also, yeah, I know it's almost 1:00, but my gosh, like, what was the purpose of this character? And like, nothing was done with him afterwards.
He was a plot point leading to the betrayal, quote unquote, and then when you finally do get his origin, it was a standard supervillain altercation in Ace Chemicals. And then you were cutting around the facility as a shortcut so you and your sisters can rush home and procrastinate like normal kids often do. You just happened to be in the vicinity of the blast because Robin barely had time to get out of the building before the reaction went off. He barely had time to get himself out of there. At best, what happened to you and your sister was tragic circumstance. At worst, your Roundhouse's mother, because his mother does appear in Teen Titans Academy, got roped into a non-disclosure agreement. Otherwise, you would have gotten screwed over by the insurance company.
Mm-hmm. And according to Tim Sheridan, apparently Teen Titans Academy was like the best-selling Teen Titans book in years. That's according to him.
That is a bold-faced lie.
He told me that when I met him. That outsold the previous Teen Titans book.
Not by much. And that's because Adam Glass the Rebirth book, but Adam Glass was on a steady decline with everything set up for 5G. If Teen
and also told me that the Suicide Squad book, Robert Thompson, the only reason for the crossovers was because apparently that run wasn't selling as well. Despite the fact the book was a lot more interesting to Titans Academy.
That was just a bad year for DC, 2019, 2020. That was just a bad year for DC in general.
Yeah, I like the line for it's like you look at Suicide Squad, it's like, yeah, Flag there, but I'm like, where's Harley? Where's Deadshot? Where's Bronze Tiger? It's like we have these bunch of somewhat familiar characters, but it didn't feel like Suicide Squad. That was the problem with the book.
So true. And Movie Theater King, I have gotten your private chats. I will probably do a separate video on the 20-year Infinite Crisis 20 years later. I'll probably prep that by the end of the year.
I think next year was 20 years since then.
Yeah, it came out in 2005, didn't it?
6.
Yeah.
2006.
It ended in 2006.
Because I think
The prelude. You're confusing the prelude to Infinite Crisis. The
Yeah,
prelude to
prelude.
Infinite Crisis was in 2005.
yes.
Oh.
I think I did hear something. 'Cause people they thought that House of M came at the same time as Infinite Crisis. According to Linkara, it came. Infinite Crisis started just after House of M wrapped up.
Yes, like it. Yeah, by the time House wrapped up, it was like right at the new year, if not February of 06.
It was like roughly like a month or two later. It's
But,
a similar thing with I think it was with Dark Knight Returns and Watchmen. Close period of time, but not the same exact period of time.
no.
And
But,
plus two different writers.
that is also true. But I feel like that's a place to finally call it. What was that movie theater king? You lagged for a second.
Oh, I said the whole Infinite Crisis started in December of 2005. What?
If you count the
Can you hear
early
me?
setup issues. Hello?
Okay. Hello?
Yes, we
My
can
mic's
hear
Yeah,
you.
not
we can
working
hear
today.
you. We can hear you.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. It's probably just taking a few seconds for it to connect, so that's why.
Okay, you're trying to screenshot something. Okay, we'll give you a few more minutes for that. But what were you saying about 2005?
I said Infinite Crisis was like somewhat debuted in December of 2005 and then ended in 06 from what I researched.
You might have gotten one of the earliest tie-ins. The prelude to Infinite Crisis might have released in 05, but not the main book. The main book didn't start till 06.
If I remember correctly, the prologue was written by Jeff Johns.
Thank you.
No problem.
It was a book that Ken McGuire was not a fan of that book at all. I asked about that, what happened with that book. The whole thing of turning Max Lord to a villain, he did not like that at all.
Oh, he hated it.
Yeah, he hated it. So, Jahi,
Yeah, I feel like that's a good place to call it. This was a great discussion, everyone. Any of you guys want to cue some outros? Any
Yeah.
upcoming projects y'all want to promote?
yeah, so I've just done my reaction to Marvel's Wolverine. That's up on my channel. I will be doing a video about the Lego Batman stuff if they find any news up coming up soon. And I will be doing some more 007 First Light videos. I have got a video in the editing process. I've just got to finish it and then I've got to upload it. Also, I will be doing a live stream in a couple of weeks talking about Peacemaker episodes 6, 7, and 8 with my co-host, the Geek of Shiv, on Into the Multiverse podcast. And I recently just did episodes 1 to 5 in review and breakdown with Dave the Film Junkie. If you want to check that on my channel, which is at Taladia Plays, you can head over there. That's where you'll find out where myself and Ronan Unchained and also Dave the Film Junkie will be discuss Peacemaker episode 1 to 5 season 2. So check that out.
All right, thank you, Taladia. Movie Theater King, anything you got coming up?
Not this year, but maybe next year. I want to try to do
Okay.
something interesting next year.
Best of luck with your studies, man. Just power through. Nick, anything you're promoting?
I've got some anime videos coming tomorrow. Well, I'm basically going to be starting up some new anime soon. One is going to be My Incident Ability is Overpowered.
Nice.
I had recently wrapped up watching I think it was Chilling My 30s with Black to be Fired for Demon King Army.
Nice. As for me, you can find me at JHeatBlaze or JHeat75, including my new Twitch, JHeat75 too. Long story on that. But yes, I usually do gaming, retrospectives, comics, manga, just just chill and vibe with just about whatever. I got multiple collabs coming up in the next couple of weeks, both with my co-host Taladia, Jared with Comics League, even Nick Lenz with DC and DC Solicitations. So I know that's coming up. Are we on? Hold on, let me get out of full screen for a second. Are we on December 2025 solicitations this month, or are we on January 2026?
I think it's December.
December. Okay. I think you guys are on December. Could you guys
okay.
October?
Yes.
Okay, we're on December. Hey, Dave the Impaler, what's up?
Just about finishing, man.
Oh man, just watch the playback, man. It was a good conversation. We appreciate having you. But yeah, I did kind of lose my groove the past couple of weeks, but I'm trying to build myself back up, including the long-awaited Ironheart review. So I did, in order to make sure I was fully prepared, so I did end up having to rewatch the series so I could review it with a fresh pair of eyes. You are welcome. Mm-hmm. But with all that being said, any final thoughts? Anything else you guys want to mention before we wrap up?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching. Like, comment, and subscribe. And remember, Lois, we love Lois here at the JG channel.
Oh, all in good fun, buddy. Like, comment, subscribe, everybody. Flame off. Love you. Peace.